Oh, yeah.
Hey, hey, hey.
This is your musical bit. You realize you're spending it on this. Ta-da!
Hello and welcome to the Itz Happenin show, community grassroots media for the people, by the people. I'm Joseph Gloria.
And I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your hosts tonight.
Tonight, indeed.
Indeedly-do.
Happening is the movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, elevate towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
Itz Happenin is a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Fight back. Not like Nate Robinson.
Actually do, yeah.
You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us, so we thank you because of you.
It's happening. Woo. Oh, okay, wait. Is that cool?
Am I melting into the background?
Yeah, no, you kind of. I mean, you kind of blend in like a chameleon a bit. It's not the green screen though.
Okay.
So that is just
wardrobe faux pas.
Yeah, there's a few colors you can't pick over there.
How are you doing, good sir?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in a daze, a turkey daze, perhaps. Coming out of it finally, coming out of a short hibernation.
Dude,
yeah.
How much did you eat on Turkey Day?
Not that much, actually. I think I ate more pie than anything, which was I was like, I'm an adult. I ate pie for breakfast. You know,
For
nothing
lunch,
wrong with that.
and the bedtime snack.
Really think about it though, like eating pie for breakfast isn't distant from a bowl of cereal, your average cereal brand. So come on, let's get with it. Let's get honest, people. If we're gonna have these breakfasts, just eat pie. Like that was the top story. I kind of already went into it.
That is all.
That's actually it. The top story.
Yeah, no, it's always a lot of food. I don't think I ate that much, but yeah. It was of course with COVID and everything. Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, as many the cool kids call it, was not this year. So we'll have to wait until next year to really do the most. So yeah, it's gonna be an exciting time.
Yeah, you wouldn't be thankful for giving your family COVID.
Exactly.
Okay, that's no one's ever said anything like that.
Thank you for COVID-less holidays. Speaking of COVID.
Speaking of that.
So, we're still in purple. Who knows when that's going to change? It seems 12% increase in hospitalization rates.
Seems later than sooner.
Yeah, and then we have what?
Yeah, I mean, just Voice obviously has some graphs for us to show like spikes in the infection rate and new positive cases reported, exceeding any previous records. So it's like, it's a bigger spike than any of the other surges that we've seen. So
that's right. Yeah. So it's still the situation, and it could get dicier if things start heading downwards, right? So so that's definitely a situation that we're gonna stay on top of, and have been. But who hasn't been staying on top of that, of course, is Donald Trump.
What? No, he solved it. It's a hoax. So.
Well, he's definitely touting the vaccine, and because he's against it for so long, then there is a very real situation where a lot of folks are, on both sides of that, actually, but more so for sure, the conservatives are saying that they're not going to take, the vaccine. That's they're not going to. So even when we do have the vaccine, which if folks have been talking about it, it's going to be really hard to transport that. You have to have these specialized coolers. It's going to be this whole ordeal where we're not going to be able to get the medicine out as quickly as needed, really. And even if we do have them, it'll be available to a few people. at first, and then it'll start, expanding, right? But yeah, Trump basically lost the election because of this, and I joke about it and say it's like he just needed to be slightly less racist.
Oh my God.
And not have COVID happen, and that's what it would have marked a difference. He got 4 million votes.
It's still close, so
It's too close for comfort.
Oh
yeah. But I just want to make it clear that we have a guestless show tonight. If you guys didn't
guestless show, go ahead, tune out. Like, we give you permission. Only top fans. I only really expect Ben to continue watching, but mainly out of loyalty more than entertainment.
I know. So no, we appreciate everybody, tuning in and getting your dose of the news that we have collected for you here today, and a lot of times things that we would like to expound on and expound on.
Extra expounding this episode.
Extra.
Oh yeah, but there is a guest tonight, really, and it's the love found between the two hosts. And he will get to witness here tonight. So yeah, expanding on what Jose was saying, the governor Gavin Newsom is going to think about going back to a mandate to stay home, and we'll go back to only being able to do curbside pickup, and only certain essential businesses will be open that you can go to. So that's not confirmed to be happening, but based on the trend of the data, we're going there. Purple's getting shut down.
So, yeah. So that's going to be impacting a lot of small businesses, and we're really seeing it. Just places just going under. Just places that have been around for decades, or just small mom and pop shops, especially.
Right.
Just closing their doors and saying, this is not worth it anymore, and so. In the absence of a stimulus package, the effects of the pandemic are really, going to hit, like the middle class, working class, poor, working poor, substantial ways. I mean, the bread lines are longer than they've ever been. It's the times of, the Great Depression, right? So it's dire, and it's really imperative that the Congress passes something. It's not going to happen probably in the lame duck presidential session, but it has to happen basically day one of the new administration, which will be January 20th, right? What are you going to do on January 20th?
I don't know. I don't know. Join an activist group again for pushing against Biden. I'm not sure. I mean, we'll get to this later, but the cabinet pick so far, not too fantastic here.
No.
But, yeah. Let's go into some science stories first. That's not controversial. Okay, it might be, actually. So, Google's DeepMind AI they developed a particular AI software called AlphaFold that has solved a 50-year-old grand challenge. And this has something to do with the way chemistry or biochemistry and the way proteins fold. So we've known how to decode proteins. We know what they're made of, and the amino acids, and we kind of have a good knowledge of what they are. But if they're it's hard to predict the physical shape they will take after their development. So this AI that Google made can predict with greater accuracy the shape of these proteins than the current method, which is literally building the proteins in a lab and then examining them in a lab. So now you can do it virtually, pretty much. You can have a virtual prediction instead. So this is going to open up a giant area for biochemistry and certain medicine, right? Figuring out how certain diseases work, because you can see the protein, and then you can predict the shape. Anyway, it's coming.
No, it's a lot of different things that are coming through science are going to really substantially change the way we do things. I mean, even how fast and Trump has done a lot of weird, stupid, dumb, catastrophic, cruel things, but in terms of the vaccine, and I would just put it more towards the the scientists that are at these evil corporations like GlaxoSmith and all these, Pfizer, that are usually, just peddling bad things and, drug and narcotics into our, communities. In this case, are the best scientists are being put to actually save mankind, and they did it, in a very short amount of time. But in the regards to this, absolutely, our ability to see into the future and see how these proteins will develop themselves could be a game changer when it comes to predicting, all these various diseases and cancers and such, um, that plague our society, right? So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
it's a development, and like this is a question that has like persisted for 50 years. No one had a good answer other than just doing an experiment, but now they can do it computationally. So it's impressive when they kind of make these breakthroughs, but it's a kind of cause for alarm as well, just because the ultimate goal of this project, of the DeepMind, the Google AI stuff, is a general artificial intelligence, which is like the one we all fear will take over humanity. Uh, I think most of their stuff so far, like say the chess playing AI, that's I think from the same kind of software, and this one, I think they're more specialized AIs that are kind of more geared toward making a prediction, or they're geared to like really stereotyping lots of data well. So they're like expert stereotypers, but they're so good at it that they're only wrong like 5% of the time, when humans are wrong 10%. So that's the kind of game we're looking here. Anyway, science news.
Science news, but that is good science news. Hooray for that.
Yes, let's wield it for good.
Science will, cure diseases, cause the destruction of mankind through nuclear warfare. You give and you take.
Right. Oh.
So next story is from the voice of OC, good friend Norberto Santana, out there putting it down. Writes the story, says just one vote made the difference in Brea's local school board race. So that was the winning margin for Brea's newest and youngest local school board member, Lauren Barnes, after OC registrar voters Neil Kelly certified that the last official batch of ballots counted for the 2020 election this past Wednesday at around 5 p.m. Isn't that crazy? Said Kelly. Just after
Isn't that
results. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy.
True words have not been spoken.
Yeah, so Kelly and a host of campaign activists, local party officials, and media kept a close eye on the race throughout the week as the margin of votes was razor thin, especially when most races were one-sided results from election night, or when it came to ballot updates throughout the week. That's right. There hasn't been too many surprises, from some. I mean, there was some that were winning like on the first batch, but then eventually lost. But that was on election night. Like afterwards, people were paying close, attention to some races, but the votes were just not there for any, campaign, to whether it was Harley Ruda or others. But yeah, one freaking vote.
Yeah, you gotta be pissed if you're the other person.
I told my cousins to vote for me, bastards. They're not getting nothing for Christmas.
Yeah, you'd be in the doghouse like, I forgot to vote for you, honey. Oops. Yeah, that could be bad. Their spouse. But doesn't this warrant a recount on any level? Is there any word of that? I didn't even check this, but that's well within the margin of error. I mean, Trump spent what, $3 million on that recount in forget what state it was. Was it Michigan? Certain counties, and he ended up getting Biden like 80 more votes. So,
damn.
I mean, I wonder what, but this is so within that error range that I'd be surprised if no one would be interested in that. But hey, if they certified it, they certified it. That's the result. But,
that's right. And Barnes said it's a good example that every vote matters. Every vote can make a difference. She's 26 and a third-generation Brea resident, graduated from Brea High School in 2012 and eventually studied biomedical engineering. So yeah, Barnes, a registered Democrat who got involved in politics this past year with the battle over renaming Fanning Elementary into Falcon Academy of Science and Technology, said elective office came up as she asked herself when she wanted to contribute to when she wanted to contribute more as a volunteer. So yeah, she ran a grassroots campaign. She raised only 3,000, focused on signs, indoor flying, and wrote postcards to supporters, and kept a functioning website. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because different races are different. I mean, this is an anomaly, right? Usually, you got to raise a good amount of money. School board races, can be different, depending on with different components. I did see
Yeah.
a councilwoman, Downey, won with like having raised like $4,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotta feel happy about that.
Yeah, but I mean, congratulations to her, and hopefully they do rename that school. Because I know folks are working on that, but failed. But yeah, every vote counts. Damn it, especially on the local level.
Oh yeah,
Oh
big
yeah.
time. So
Next
vote. Next story. So yeah, voting matters, but sometimes it doesn't.
Damn.
Ooh. But doesn't mean don't do it. Because it's just like this is a story about what progressives make of Biden's. Yeah, wah wah wah. Yeah, Biden won, but Dylan Downer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, but Biden's cabinet so far is nothing to celebrate for most progressives here. Let's see. I mean, they're pretty much just all like Obama carryovers. Like, they're people that had graduated from the last administration, kind of, and now they're all up one more position or something. But we're gonna get another similar Obama style cabinet here, a kind of Clinton Democrat who courts corporate money a lot, and you're gonna have Wall Street people on here. Yeah, I mean, there's some minor positives here. I mean, it's at least better than Trump's cavalcade of like evil lunatic that have escaped from the asylum for the criminally insane. You know what I'm saying? Like it's better than that. But yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like we got to keep pushing.
I mean, he did a few things, right? So he did. It's crazy because it was so bad with Trump on certain levels that anybody, like a log of wood, would have been better than Stephen Miller, for example, all of the different, horrible people that they had at the DHS, right? At the, so
it kind of makes me think of like in Batman, like Gotham Asylum, all the insane criminals, everything. Anyway, go ahead. That was kind of.
Yeah, he did pick Alejandro Mayorkas, a Latino, to take over Homeland Security this time around. So, he's a former refugee, and he's definitely going to take a much more humanitarian approach to the issue at the border. I mean, I just read recently that I think like 30 children were deported by the Trump administration from Guatemala, even after having been told by the courts to stop doing that, to stop deporting these children and find them, their parents and stuff. It's just utterly outrageous. So, I mean, he's the first woman to lead the intelligence agency, right? I mean, he's putting Black people into positions of power, people of color, formerly refugees. I mean, that is the silver lining. Environmental folks were happy about John Kerry being assigned to that. It was, I believe, it's a climate change or environmental type of think tank that he's creating. So, but turning the very cold shoulder to Warren and, and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and Biden coming out and saying like it's already very progressive. Check the box.
We're fine.
Yeah. We're progressive AF. All right. Come on, man. Let Biden a break.
Don't be like Corn Pop. Come on. Yeah.
Leave Biden alone.
Oh my God.
No, it's really just troubling having said all that I said, it is. But I'm
Yeah.
surprised. Are you surprised, Dylan? You're not.
No, not at all, really. I mean, I'm wondering like what were the progressives supposed to do like this last like I think Bernie had such a big impact in 2016, like getting as far as like culture change, like bringing these kinds of ideas that had been fostered through like Occupy and different movements of the past, for like anti-corporate, anti-corruption, like a people-powered kind of ideas, but like they didn't seem to get any leverage for the push, from 2016 into 2020. I mean, look what happened. They just doubled down on being assholes, the Democratic Party, and they're like, "No, Biden's it. Like we're gonna run the same campaign," and like they happened to win this time. And like it was kind of similar circumstances, the split of the vote. Like it wasn't like a very convincing win in my view. Right? They won for sure by millions of people. That's important. But what
Mhm.
did the progressives get? We don't even get any cabinet people. Like we're basically just shit on again, and it's like, well, what were we supposed to do? Were the progressives supposed to be way more militant? Were they not supposed to go through the Democratic Party because whatever Bernie did this time? Like I feel like him saying like, "Oh, I'm Joe's friend," like come on, man. Like that's not gonna fly here. Like you can't try to be chill after what happened in 2016.
Yeah, Bernie, like any politician or like public servant, is not perfect, and so like and I think it was shown throughout afterwards when folks just said no, we're not going to support Biden, we're going to support third party candidates or whatever, right? We're just not going to like vote for president at all. Or I'll write in Mickey Mouse, like just
Yeah,
and like and everything in between. But no, people rightfully were upset, and especially when he was just like, yeah, Joe's my friend and he's gonna do this and this and that. But when it really comes down to it, he Joe Biden was very much intentional about saying I am not a friend of the left. And I fought against Bernie, and when it comes to healthcare, like
yeah.
I want to keep it the way it is.
No empathy for millennials.
Yeah,
Nothing will fundamentally change. Yeah, there's all sorts of quotes.
yeah. I mean, but even as things don't fundamentally change, I think in the outer reaches of what the fundamental is, the tentacles of the system, we're going to see some changes because there's individuals that have a heart and will do hopefully the right thing when it comes down to it. And but as was always known throughout the this situation was that we were going to continue to we were going to have to continue to fight and advocate for these things because that's what we did with Obama, and folks, undocumented folks and others, fought hard to get him to get DACA approved, which luckily was recently saved by a judge. Uh, that's something, and that wouldn't have happened without strong advocacy. And so that's just one example of many that we can do. But God knows, I'm happy to see Betsy DeVos gone. Jeez, and so are
Yeah.
many educators out there. Speaking of educators, shout outs to Alfonso Alvarez. Yeah, he
Oh,
said he won by his first election by 39 votes. Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
mentioned that before. Yeah, so we need to advocate for more minorities to be appointed to presidential boards and commissions. I was appointed to select the service board, but resigned when Trump won. See, yeah. So there's many ways, more than one way to skin a cat, and more and many ways in which we need to like I'll say infiltrate the system, but be on the front lines of the inside game, and also support and or work within the outside frames of democratic politics, right? Because it's stinky, it's not fun,
It's stinky,
nobody
boy.
wants to do it, but somebody has to, and because we're not at the table, then we're on the menu. It's as much as the party is flawed in many ways, there's still good in him, there's still good in it. So
I hope so. Certainly hope so. Maybe not so much on the federal level, I'd say, but more so hopefully on the local level. But yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of deviating from the stories, but I'm just gonna interview Jose because, but I do wonder, like, what I mean, what should we be doing right now, like politically? I mean, it always feels like the same questions come around every presidential election. It's like you can't vote third party, and it's like I didn't want to, and I don't think a lot of people did for at least Green Party, right? Green Party didn't net like anything this time around, right? And I'm not sure if were people afraid of last time of what happened last time. Even the progressives were like, okay, I will vote for Biden this time. Or do you know if the numbers were similar, for Jill Stein in 2016?
That's a good question. Yeah, let's ask let's ask
Ask the
ask
audience.
Google. Yeah, no, but I would imagine it was around the same. There were
Mhm.
more people that voted this time around than did last time. I think a lot more people sat down, just stayed home. 100% the vote by mail situation due to COVID played a huge role in facilitating the ability for people to vote,
Yeah.
and especially people were stuck at home. So what were they watching? What were they doing? They were on
Yeah.
Facebook, they were on Twitter, and that's where they were getting their news. People are getting their news so much more.
Hmm.
I would argue nowadays from the internet than they are from CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News.
Oh yeah.
The whole trip about it, right? Like that used to be a left talking point.
Mhm.
The left would say like the media is corrupt, the corporate media and stuff, and then
Oh
Trump
yeah, yeah.
just took that and and
Ran with
ran
it.
with it to make it to the point where like any news is that it's not supportive of him is fake news, and we're just saying like some of it was was good, but a lot of it was very much geared in a way to support the neoliberal establishment, and that could for sure could be said for sure. um, corporate media and the corporations that own these media companies, which is why we need independent media, right? And that was
Big time.
and going back to like what progressives are doing, we need to stop crying about you know uh, losing elections. We need to get smarter. We need to get smarter, stronger, smarter, better at disenfranchising and engaging voters in between election periods. I think nonprofits do a lot of good work, and so do grassroots organizations, not for profit, to push issues like housing, like rent control, right? And that those are progressive issues, and as far as I'm concerned, but we lose and then we sit back, and then all we are left to do is shame, either shame the people that are in power, or shame other people for not being left enough. I got we had a debate right recently, or a couple months ago, a month ago, with Pasta, Craig Pasta, right, from
Mhm.
Combo Couch,
Yeah.
and both of them, Fiorella as well. They're very much on this kind of tone of saying like, like, screw you, the left, you are, you sold out, you're not doing good. It's the best, two sides of the same coin. They're absolutely the same. And they're just not in substantial ways. They're not. They're in substantial ways. They are very much the same, right? Military industrial complex is not going anywhere, and so many other issues. But it's we can't just get into these false dichotomies, or in on one hand and say like blue good, red bad. But we also can't say like blue red is all the same, like, because it's not. It could be better, but it's not. So it in conclusion, we have to understand that the media has a lot of control over the uh, voters' minds. But the glimmers of hope is that uh, campaigns can win through social media outreach. Campaigns can win on small budget, interrelational building, good messaging, and we don't need to rely on big money necessarily. We can raise money like AOC did, and other people, small like Bernie, to be able to build these grassroots campaign. And we need to stop focusing on every 4 years. Like, that's just one aspect of it. We need to focus on the local races. Santana won big, big ups to cooperative campaigns and all these other groups, and unions, and that we're able to support all these efforts, and all these community organizers that made the leap from being activists and and one issue even to then becoming advocates around and getting smart about the issues we're arguing about, with sound policy and real solutions, not just saying like breaking things down into these nice little symbolic slogans and chants. Like it takes more than that, and then going to support candidates, and especially when we expect them to take risky positions on the issues that we care about. And I think a lot of times people say like, well, people don't show up for me when I show up for them. And that's a legitimate argument. So.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I feel like we don't know. I haven't seen a lot of ways that we've been supportive to council members throughout the years. Like when they have done something good, it's like good, no good, keep doing that. It's like I feel like we never tell them. And maybe there's going to be a way. Maybe we need to do that as along with pressuring, right? So it's a two-way street,
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. Hallie says, please don't become a Democrat apologist. You came from Occupy. You remember what Obama did to us. No, it's real. And I remember Occupy clearly. And I remember us filling, the room with awesome, epic speeches and chants. And, we just took over and they largely ignored us. And then we resorted to keeping a camp going and starting infighting and all the toxicity that we were dealing with within our own lives got spilled out into each other. And then there's factions and cliques, and it just became very much not what it intentionally was. So like it was a good training ground for myself and others, and I'll always be appreciative of Occupy and stuff. But one thing I'm not is like, I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I recognize the good and the bad in the Democratic Party, just like I recognize the good and the bad in individuals and people, and there's so many things that are flawed within us, right? Religion, but we're still tolerant of religions, even as they, profess very, troubling things, right? Like, you're going to hell. It's like, oh, well, thanks.
That's your belief.
Yeah.
I respect your belief that I'm damned eternally.
Yeah. We just
we do.
It's and so it's not for everybody, and so that's, but all you can do is if you're going to oppose the Democratic Party or oppose partisan politics, you've got to build a base. You got to like get out there and stop building these silos and these echo chambers, and it's the same people in all the meetings, because we're not building up mentoring new leadership. Like, it's a problem that we have to desperately engage in. But I feel really hopeful, and especially in Santana, where like young people really came out in a big way, because they, folks talked about the issues that matter to them. Taking money, directing it from the police and into the youth. Those are important issues, and other things that these people that won did. And speaking of winning, and beyond, so a lot of people are calling AOC a sellout. Because you can't be in this game and not be called a sellout. And I get really angry when people say Bernie's a sellout, because it's like, you fight 30 years of your life towards people, for people, all over, and this is the thanks you get. Like, that's not fair. Then first do that, then you can talk crap.
Oh my God.
CommonDreams.org says 99% of Green New Deal co-sponsors won the races this cycle. Same progressive policies held Democrats back from expanding their House majority / taking the Senate. Just doesn't hold water with data available so far. So yeah, it goes on to talk, interview different people. Brian Kahn, a journalist, said, simply put, the Green New Deal is not a political loser. So because all of the different candidates that the squad all got reelected, and they threw all the socialists and communists and very, in the case of Ilhan Omar, like just straight up racism.
Yeah.
She got crazy. She gets crazy amount of death threats, and yeah. But she's a sellout because she doesn't do X, Y, and Z or AOC and stuff.
Well, it's a popular policy. Well, I mean, but are we always supposed to criticize our elected officials? I mean, think about, like, it's kind of what Chris Hedges says. He says, like, the job of the activist or the organizer isn't to be in power, it's to criticize it. And I mean, I think there's definitely merit to saying some of these things about Bernie and AOC, because I mean, I mean, you have to. It's like, what? How do you look at politics? Like, people might see Bernie and say, "Oh, he's like a sheepdog for the bringing all the progressives back into the center by being like the leftmost point you could possibly go," and then basically they shit all over him for the last 8 years. You know what I'm saying? Like he's received no respect or any like I feel like what he gained, what Bernie did, was amazing and a positive thing, but like he wasn't able to take over the party like Trump was.
No,
You know?
no. His insurrection, if you will, failed because he doesn't have he wasn't able to get a landslide of Congress people that were running and winning on the issues. The Tea Party did that, and then created the Freedom Caucus, which basically voted as the bloc and stood up to its own party. We don't
Yeah.
have that kind of the Progressive Caucus is just not there, and even though you'll have some spats. Listen, I will always take, and I think it's like you said, if you're elected, you should be able to take criticism. And I mentioned earlier, like I think the way that Bernie just kind of started like just being really friendly about Biden, just was kind of troublesome.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I trust in his wisdom after being there for so long to think strategically. Like, I know what people want me to do, and I know what would maybe feel good in the moment, but in the long term, it's not about me. Like, what everybody want to be like, fuck the party. Like, I'm starting my own third, party, and then what? Lose badly, and then definitely split the vote. Like, and get Trump again. That's just that just was not an option for me. And I still consider that it's a place of privilege for people to to expand that kind of belief system while not realizing that people that are on the margins, Muslim, refugees, undocumented people at the border. Man, I crossed the border from Mexico, like recently, and it was like 3 hours to get back in. And man, it was so sad to see how many more people there are trying to sell you things, trying to wash your car, your windows, just people just straight begging, little girls. It broke my freaking heart. It's still, and it was like a real kind of wake up call to remember. It's like, yeah, I know what this is about, and and I just have to. I can't. Bernie pushed the envelope as far as anybody has in the history of the United States, and still he's able to live to fight another day, because if had he not, he would have imploded, and it would have just in the long term hurt the progressive movement more than helped it. We're just not ready for a third party. We have to break like the mainstream media like system. We have to break the conglomerates. We have to promote like government run television that's not beholden to shareholders. You know what I mean? Like, the odds are so hard stacked against us, that people, and Bernie would take all the criticism, but are very quick to like not just give him credit for how far he has done, and many people thought was truly impossible.
Well, fair is fair, and I think you can take the good with the bad. I mean, I see both with Bernie, and I think what he did was great, but I'm not like necessarily following what he's doing very much right now. Like, I feel like he did his mission, like he
took us to the mountaintop. but politically, I really feel like Bernie was the Martin Luther King of our time and of politics, because he just pushed the envelope so much farther, and then other people took the mantle and took it farther, or didn't. I mean, in the case of the civil rights movement, it definitely hurt once they killed MLK and Malcolm X. In the case of like Bernie, I think it would have been political suicide and hurt the progressive had he ran a third party candidacy, or be openly hostile to Biden.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing is, if you're on the sidelines and you're throwing rocks at people like from it's easy. But like when you're in there trying to like pick up, like pick up the shit that is electoral politics, then you really know what's at stake. By the way, I've had to like deprogram my mind to stop thinking about people as voters.
Oh my
Part
god.
of like what allows me, after
That's all you see. Yeah.
campaign, working on a campaign, like on campaigns. That's yeah, demographics and stuff. Voter,
Yeah.
all that
People, yeah. They have feelings, they have personalities,
they're not numbers, damn it. But
yeah.
I have a lot of hope, and
Yes.
that's the most important thing that I feel folks should take away from this conversation between Dylan and I.
Oh yeah.
Is that we have to continue fighting, and we have to hold on to hope. And these kinds of shows, and we need more shows. We need more podcasts from all, like women or LGBTQ folks. All people that feel that their voice is not heard, to create platforms for those voices to be heard. We do the best we can, but we could always do better. But at the same time, people can only tell their stories from where they came from. I could talk about being undocumented because that's what I lived through and suffered through, and shit sucked. But God bless, my family bringing me here and make me starting to climb. I didn't know English. I learned it, and I learned Ebonics and stopped getting picked on at school, so that was good.
There you go.
You gotta talk cool and hip, yo. And I started rapping, and anyways, so I'll say that America is like it's a flawed entity, but it's our flawed entity, right? Like a flawed family member, but we just gotta take the good with the bad, and create a new generation of Americans that are better than the current ones, or most of the current ones.
Oh yeah,
definitely
so.
The Trump that voted for Trump.
Yeah. Well, can we go back to like the thing on the sidelines?
Yeah.
Thing, like people like there's something to that, because like we all have an idea of things that need to change in this world, and we only have a finite amount of energy. Like there's so many issues you could do, right? There's so many problems to work on that need attention, and definitely there needs to be some reform in the Democratic Party. So I mean, I that's not like the route I want to go, but I understand why people look at the party and say, there's some good to be done here. There's some reform that could help shift the way our world is. But I mean, the little I feel like I do is like even just part of the show, like trying to be an independent source of media. Like it's a very simple grassroots thing. Like it's like that book that we read in Occupy called From Dictatorship to Democracy, Gene Sharp. And it looks at these different cultures that have gone through that transition, and kind of it identifies a large list of different things that were done. But it's primarily about like if the oligarchs and they've seized the levers of the society, they kind of control the like donors control the government controls all these other things that affect our life. We need to make alternate pillars of our society, like we need media that's not owned by 7 giant multinational corporations in the entire country, right? Like we need independent media. That's one example of what we're doing, but it expands to so many things. And so I feel like anything activity that builds grassroots, independent, honest, like not sold out material or a community for people to participate in is a start of how you build grassroots things, right? We need to be connected and not lied to. So but yeah, and going way back, okay, I'm going even way back. Screw the stories, there's no stories anymore. I'm interviewing Jose. I am interested in discussing more with someone who like Pasta, like to try to understand the thought process. Because when I look at the problem of what was the question? It was like, should you vote for Joe Biden? Wasn't that the debate question?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at our reality, are there only two outcomes of that election? It was either Biden will win or Trump will win, right? There's no other plausible outcomes here. It would be impossible for the entire country to suddenly become third party now, you know, right?
Right. You had to have done the groundwork, the legwork for for a long time.
But yeah, that's something we should be doing, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like we need to
That was
engage
my
in
main
these.
argument that was not addressed by him and was really pushed aside. And I feel like people think that, and and I think anything that they do their show, that's great. We need, it's not a knock on them that they're really phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
What they do, but it's more like we need more than just a show. Like I personally couldn't, if I'm trying to say like I want to be a revolutionary, I want to wage revolution, like it's more than just attending marches and protests and city council meetings. Like God knows I've been to many in these past 10, 15 years that I've been organizing. It's not enough in and of itself. Like we need to just get better at electing good people on the local level and understanding policies enough to be able to really not just shout our demands, but really articulate them in a way that are compelling, and most importantly not just compelling to our electeds but compelling to the people, sometimes I feel that advocates speak for the community when the community doesn't agree with what they want.
yeah.
Like you haven't surveyed the community enough, and even if you did, like you haven't grown like a large enough movement to pass things, like rent control and like others, and so there's just there's a big gap. Like why didn't rent control pass on the statewide level, right? Like it two times, and the first time said, well, it was a midterm election, like was odds stacked against us. It lost by the same if not more this time
Yeah.
around.
I don't
So
know.
it's not that it's not an like an issue people care about. They hell yeah they do. You just haven't been able to sell it well enough. So it's like one of those situations where I find like the left has a problem with messaging, but it also has a problem with like engaging a community in a substantial enough way to be able to prevent bad people from being elected and being able to have good people being elected. If we had that, then we would be able to fight back against all the negative mailers and all the TV ads and stuff, but we don't, right? So then I feel like it's like a position of weakness to constantly be resorting to shaming or canceling or, other people that we disagree with. It's like, if you want to like your argument to win, then you got to win with that argument, with the by compelling and engaging the people. So I'm a cultural revolutionary, and I could proudly say that. Um, and when people talk about revolution, they always think about violence, and when we talked about the Bernie campaign, we constantly talked about political revolution, and that's a part of it, but it's also social revolution. It's also artistic revolution. It's also spiritual revolution. It's a drastic and dramatic and transformative change from a one way of existing and coexisting with each other and through communication, dialogue, and systems, and being able to go to a better one. And I find so often that we are where we are, not yes because the corporations do this to us, but because we let them do it to us. And that I feel is the most frustrating thing about doing community organizing and community work, that I feel that the odds are so desperately stacked against us that we can't help but resort to tokenizing or astroturfing or symbolic wins, and just things that will make us feel relevant, but in the long scheme of things we're not really doing it in the best way and not enough to win in a big way. We win 10% of the time, but we would win no percent of the time if we didn't do anything, so it's important to lift up people's work, but it's also important to take your L's and understand why you lost, but and it's also important to know that you have to continually base build and create a leadership making machine, so I'm gonna get off my my soapbox, but I feel really deeply about this, and so I feel that this is cultural revolution right here, like us being able to talk about things, and you and I disagree on many things. We disagree on many more things, but even still, like we're able to get really deep into these things. And you and me, we've had many conversations, right? Like in the car or during Occupy. And I always felt like there was more people that need to be aware and exposed to these kinds of conversations, because we're grappling and we're working through like the issues that affect us and trying to create some kind of solutions. God knows we're artists in that sense, because you have to be creative in order to, like, you know, get your message across and build a freaking movement. So but then with that, we also need to have different things come in place. The 60s didn't happen in a vacuum. It was a long time building, but ultimately can't, you know, drugs helped. You know, the draft helped, and all these different things that, you know, culturally changed from everybody listening to, like, you know, you know, it's all of a sudden like, you know, like Elvis Presley and the Beatles and stuff. It's incredible. And it was a renaissance, and I think we want that and need that, and I feel that I started my movement of It's Happening with that kind of hope that I could do that through open mics at first, but then started getting into politics. But I'm like, I'm not a politician like that. I just did it because I saw that was a means to one end, but it's not everything. It's a pie. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll get more of the artist Jose, the rapper poet. You know?
Solo album releasing 2022.
Yeah, the long awaited. I'm like Dr. Dre and Detox over here. It's coming.
Yeah, ever since COVID started, you went back in the lab and you started remastering all your tracks, and you're like, leave it alone. It doesn't need a bass line and a second bass line. Please leave the track alone. Yeah, so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we need to. Yeah, I mean, my thing, and I hate saying it. I just hate it. I don't even know how to talk to people about it. But I just feel like we have a moral obligation to participate in the village on whatever level that is. There's a component of like civic engagement that I feel like we're lacking in you know, American society, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is done through like your work, basically. Like the way you participate is you pay taxes by chasing your individual career, and then you didn't like lie during jury duty to get out of it, or, you know, something like that. You have to pay a parking ticket. But I mean, should it be more than that? I mean, like, how are we gonna make this thing work if a lot of people's eyes aren't on it? Like, how long did it take for all the POA candidates to start losing? Like, I almost feel like it was almost, they could have won still, you know, if the certain people didn't run in races. Like if Jose Solorio dropped out, and like maybe Katz dropped out, or Mark McLaughlin dropped out, maybe the results would have been different, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think about that. You know, two women running definitely helped you know, the race. Solorio and Claudia splitting the centrist vote definitely helped, right? But even still, like he won by 10,000 votes.
Yeah.
So that was, it's as close to a mandate as you can get. Sarmiento did. But in the other races, yeah, I think it worked itself out. But I mean, Janelle Welker did not do very well in her race. I think she got, you know, barely 1,000 votes. And so, you know, you would have thought she could have probably done better. You know, just different races, you know, just kind of work themselves out in different ways. But yeah, it's really interesting how the POA just lost just so heartily in Santana. But it was a long time coming, right?
It was. But I guess why I bring that up is I'm frustrated because I don't think is it because of awareness about POA corruption? Because I know within the scene, within the Santa Ana like city council scene, like it has become a faux pas at the debates to say, I would take the POA money. So I was accompanied by scattered gasping from the audience, you know, like in the recent years. But the general community has no freaking idea what that's about. They don't know. They wouldn't, even if someone says a POA to them, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the scene knows, but the general population, it's just like it just lucked out and POA lost. That's
But I mean, why did it potentially lose? Is it became a national issue with the death of George Floyd, right? And Black Lives Matter movement, and so that's what you're saying. Like, people might say like, oh, you're poo-pooing on marches and stuff. Like, no, God knows we always needed that kind of like grassroots swelling, but it had to go hand in hand with elected, progressive candidates that could run and win. Like, you need that, and I think it was like given that there was BLM marches in Santana, and that put the issue on the minds of the young people that were saying like, well, how can I do something about it on the local level? Well, I can vote for the candidate that wasn't endorsed by the Police Officers Association, like, and so they're hopefully through the right messaging to young people, that was something that they grabbed from certain campaigns that were running on this very much you know pro BLM, and not to say necessarily to defund the police, because that is another issue, right? If you talk to 10 people in the community, you'd probably get a lot of like pushback. It's like, no, I want my police to get here quicker. Like they don't know enough to like, and they'll just say we need more because they take forever to get when I call them, as opposed to thinking like, well, like they're expensive and there's pensions, and then when they mess up, you can't get rid of them because personnel board is controlled by POA puppets, and so
and this overtime issue, and
they get hired back
understaffed, and
and then they have to deal with issues that they shouldn't deal with, like homelessness and other like issues that we can have other healthcare workers and professionals to deal with it, so that then it can actually go do the police work of investigating crimes and stuff, right? Like it's people have this vision of what being an officer is, but what it actually is just pretty gnarly. And more importantly, like differentiating between the union and the police force. Not every police officer association across the county or even nationwide is bad, and it wasn't always that way. But as the need for special interest and the need to grow and grow and grow, that's why all the sheriffs and everybody that's in law enforcement supported Trump, because he's like, I'm going to give you more money so you can hire more border patrol agents and more. It's like, well, yeah, we want more money. So then it becomes like for the betterment of you at the expense of the people, right? Like,
right.
So if we again fall into these false economies where like like people good, police bad, and it's like, no, police are people too. And some of them are bad.
You heard it here first.
But all of them are complicit when they don't get rid of bad police officers, because anybody that ever has had any family members in the police force will say like, yeah, like they got into it with a feeling of this is what I want to do, and then they end up not doing it. I don't want to get on to like that whole thing, but people should watch The Wire, I feel, because that show, they try to say it's a cop show, but it's really incredible how it breaks down every season, right? From like the issues of police corruption, which are very real, the issues of governmental corruption, the issues that they felt that the education department, like schools and dealt with, and also like the unions. It was all intermingled to like make you see like nobody's a hero in all this. Some of them are good and bad in all these areas, but every single one of them are in one way, shape, or form failing our kids and failing society as a result, because we're not creating constructive members of society that would then take on the corruption and do right by its people. You know what I mean? Like I talk about, like I was talking to family about like Mexico and stuff. Like there's a lot of corruption there, but every Mexican that pays a bribe to the police officer contributes to that. We don't have that here, but we still have corruption, right? So it's like it's different ways in which people contribute to corruption. People don't know that when they vote for a POA candidate, they're in low key, supporting corruption because they don't know better, right? But that's still the end result. But anyways, so all to say that it's interesting how it worked itself out in this place in Santana this last time around.
Oh yeah, big time. I know we're over.
Yeah.
So
Soon, I just want to shout out to Hallie for engaging in the conversation today and everybody tuning in. Kenneth Batiste, yeah, of course, the opposition had lots of money, yeah, but especially in your race, boss, like it was pretty, severe. Yeah, so defund is sloppy semantics. Hallie says reorganize like a corporation has gone corrupt. Yeah, some of them go into because they want a stable service job. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they get good pay. Eventually, they get benefits. Like, have working like for the government, whether it's local government or state government, that's a good job. But their
it's good to have a pension.
Can't come at the expense of the greater community and the community's goals, whether it comes to rent control, affordable housing, and all these issues that soil that doesn't have lead, right? Environmental justice, good paying jobs, etc. For everybody, not just unions, right? Everybody should have good paying jobs.
It's the goal.
Yeah.
It's the goal. Why don't I give a final statement and
final statements.
Final statement. Screw the top stories. I guess I don't know. This is a weird final statement, but I feel like I want to say, like, don't. It goes back to your thing about being on the sideline. Like, definitely get involved somehow before you're gonna tear down what someone else is doing. And I mean, I'm not totally for, like, I don't imagine I would ever, like, it would be tough for me to run for political office or maybe even to work a campaign. I'm not sure. Everyone has their place, and I just feel like you can't just totally knock the people that are trying to go on the inside, because the problem is that, like, say you oppose, like, say the police, you oppose how the police do public safety in our city, but you don't like, you kind of maybe you disregard, like, trying to take a reformist approach to, like, negotiating with the city, trying to change police policy and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to yield anything, right? We did these community policing forums 4 years ago, and they didn't do jack shit with them. They threw all the data away. So, but like, I did it knowing that was a good outcome for us, because it's basically saying, hey, we gave them all the shit they needed. They don't give a rat's ass about community policing. There's no evidence to suggest they care. So at least when we went that reform route, we're trying to suggest to them, hey, these are things you do. They ignored it. We're like, see, you don't care. There's evidence, So at least we had that when we failed. And I guess my point is that even if you take an outside approach to solving public safety issues, say you'll do like some kind of community watch program that's grassroots organized to solve your public safety issues instead, you're still going to run up into the police at some point, because they have a monopoly on public safety in the city. So even if you take the outside, you're going to hit the inside at some point. They own the shit. So I'm just saying, maybe it would be good to, like, I mean, that's why at some point someone has to mess with what's happening on the inside. They control everything, if you didn't notice. So I'm done.
Yeah. Well, change takes time. In Santana, once upon a time, there was a city attorney, a man named Paul Walters that was both city attorney and chief of police. And then a new council was sworn in with Michelle Martinez, Benavides, Sarmiento, Pinajero. Mm-hmm. And they were able to break that. And that was the beginning, and you could argue maybe the end of the Pulido reign over Santana politics, in cahoots with the POA that had been there forever. Pulido would have ran and won this time around had he had the ability to. So him getting term limits was substantial, and the district elections happening even while he refused to sign it and make it into law back in we could have had it in 2018 was an example of like the last effort to make the inevitable, like like wait slightly. Same as happened with Anaheim district elections. Jordan Brandman and all these people that were against it. Eventually, the system won. The system broke and people won. Um, so and yeah, and I remember going to many city council meetings over years at Santa Ana and just being really utterly spent because I gave all my energy to these speeches that I would give, and I'd get applauses and snaps, and it felt good at the moment, but in the long run, they were ignoring everything that we were saying, and it's very demoralizing. And so the very easy thing is to kind of just give up. It's like, they don't listen. Like, what's the point? There is no point. But you just keep fighting, and eventually we were able to get things moving, and this time around, this is where we're in a better place. We're in a good position where we could potentially do substantial change with the very people that from 10 years ago were pushing for these things. Now it's become a reality, but it took 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'll just say it's like, we're playing the long game here. We have to understand that and be strategic in that sense. Just because something feels good at the moment doesn't mean that it is the right thing to do. There's a constant conversation and battle between pushing too much and losing everything, the ability to to win anything, versus underselling yourself and not pushing further than you could have and gotten more than what you got. And that's something that it's just never going to go away. And we're going to have to continue to grapple with that. But it does, the story of Santana, just like the story of Anaheim, is the stories of communities, getting smarter, getting better, and understanding there's different fronts in the fight for a better world.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so just in the case with District Attorney Lacey losing to Gascon in LA, it took, people knew she was lousy and horrible and corrupt, but eventually they got rid of her. It's gonna change. We got rid of Tony Rakakas locally. That helped in some ways to crack, these behind the scenes kind of, conglomerates that had their hands in all sorts of politics. So it's a new day, and as much as this corrupt system is still in place, there are new individuals that give us a fighting chance, and that's all we can hope for. With that,
it's supposed to be a short show tonight.
I know. It is, compared to 2.5 hours last week with their awesome Manny's to me. Yeah. Shout out to Janelle Hardy also being on here. Alfonso, I went to council meetings for years talking about leasing alternatives. Nobody listened.
Ain't that the story?
Right, regardless, because it is this simple. You are part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Absolutely. Solutionaries. We need dozens more solutionaries. And so many. Yeah.
But is there one way to change the world? Like, what if there's this one thing we are all just not doing that if we did it, we would just, look, I just figured out we all just have to boycott society. Guys, can we come to agreement on this, guys, for once? Can we get a general strike? How hard is that? Guys, we have Facebook now. You could do a poll and you just do yes or no. Okay.
There is one thing that we need to do that would change everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one word. It's called love. Mm-hmm. And my name is love.
Just hug a stranger.
No.
Okay. And breathe on them. Yeah.
No. Without sounding corny, I mean, I think there's this, unconditional love that manifests itself into faith, hope, peace, forgiveness, rehabilitation, and redemption. And as a society and as individuals, we have to continue to, to go through that, and every day is a battle within ourselves, with our consciousness and our ability to say no to apathy and no to depression and anxiety and hopelessness, and yes to hope, to possibilities, to our adventures, and to creative pursuits of fixing everything that's broken here, because that's the thrill of the lifetime. And that is the purpose of all of us, to unscrew, to not say un-f the world, and to to make it what it's supposed to be, not what we've created it to be. So I believe in a world where many worlds are possible, and I believe we can create a new world in small forms, small groups, small community associations. But it has, as Bernie said, and many things that he said, not me, us, and the political revolution doesn't start from the top down, but it starts from the bottom up.
Coalitions, baby.
Yeah, and get up into those commissions and stuff, because those positions matter, and folks are able to be at the table and actually be heard. And so it's all this trickle down kind of way that we can, and trickle up ways in which we can affect policy. So get on that hip. Yeah. Get on the gravy train. Yeah, and not the high cholesterol gravy train.
Yeah, watch out.
Groovy gravy.
I don't know. The holidays aren't over. The heavy eating has not ended. That's only begun.
Nor the heavy drinking.
Yeah. Tis the season.
Tis the season.
Yes.
Jolly and joyous. I hope. All right. I want to thank Edgar for being an awesome audio video engineer. Iron Lion Media, Iron Lion Studio. I want to thank everybody that tuned in throughout the show. Thank you for bearing with us. You are the real MVPs. I appreciate every single one of you. We're going to continue to do this as long as people are willing to hear us.
I'll take the pity views.
The political crisscross that is Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria.
Yeah, and actually, this show we wore our pants backwards in honor of crisscross.
Wiggity, 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 yo, wiggity, 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 wiggity.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you to our beautiful audience for the pity.
Yeah, the
pity views.
The political beards to men that is our show here. Anyways, thanks again. And please subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to our Spotify, and all the different places where you can listen to our shows when you're driving. Just put us on and listen to us. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll smile, and hopefully you'll have a hope in a better day, because that's what it's happening.
That's the goal.
Man.
Yeah, if we don't depress our audience, at least they'll get a chuckle or two along the way. That's the new motto of the show, by the way. followed by Joker laughing. So.
All right.
Oh yeah.
From Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria and all of us here on It's Happening, we are signing off.
It's happening. Whoa.
De realidad para no ver lo que es verdad. Te han engañado, no es libertad, lo que tú vives es vulgar. Ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores. Hay que luchar para vencer este sistema capitalista.